Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Rwagnation League Grand Prix here in the Brazil circuit of Interlagos. It is a phenomenal circuit. I actually really enjoy coming here every single time we do. And whenever you get to see these guys absolutely go at it, you know they always deliver. I'm Ben Raggy McConnell, and joining me in the commentary box is the lad himself, Mr. Safso. How you doing?
I'm doing alright, thank you. How about yourself?
I'm all right. I mean, we haven't got the man who did it last week, who did the perfect weekend. We've never seen it before. He smashed it last week and amazingly did everything we wanted and more. Now he's not here, so it gives an opportunity here for the likes of Kai Bacchini and maybe even Piloto, maybe even Aviate. Oh, it's definitely not going to be Burrito Bandito. He's crashed out in massive style. Yeah, it gives an opportunity for them to be able to get themselves up and get the weekend win.
Yeah, that last week was incredible to watch. Just someone getting a perfect weekend. It's both satisfying to watch and it makes you a little bit jealous sometimes.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, and actually Beaker doing quite well at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, he's strange. When he gets in these F2 cars, he is actually very fast. It's like it just seems to suit his driving style. I don't know why, I don't know how, but it does. He is somebody who can be very good, has got the potential for wins, and has actually done it in the past. It's just, he is a magnet for trouble. He cannot seem to keep himself out of trouble. Whether it's his fault, whether it's not his fault, that's down to your own judgment. But I just wish he could keep himself out of trouble. Right now, though, it is Piloto who's looking like he's going to take pole position. Beaker chasing him down. The 4 points are going to be awarded to Piloto Paya. Oh, just barely though. 3-10 separating him and Beaker, and Fairball right behind them, and then even closer behind is Falsetti, and then Kai Bacchini.
Yeah, that top four is not separated by much at all, so they might be very well the ones to watch for the fight for the win today, in this race at least.
Yeah, definitely. Right, the rundown then is Piloto getting the 4 points, getting pole position, and then 2.5 tenths back is Beaker in P2. Fairball P3, Falsetti in P4, Kai Bacchini P5, Azia getting 6th, DePayne getting 7th, Lando's Milman getting 8th with Ravenduck in 9th, Marquez rounding out the top 10, Tiger Jr. getting best of the rest, Aviator in P12, Burrito Bandito gets disqualified, and Roshko, whose game crashed, should have been able to rejoin now, so we'll be slotting into that P14 slot. Now, obviously, we saw Piloto manage to secure pole position. We know that he's got really good movement going in towards this, and usually, when it comes to these F2 cars, especially in dry conditions, he tends to carry that momentum through to getting the first win in the feature race. But do you think he can make it today, and who do you think is going to be joining him on the podium at the end of the first race?
Well, in terms of if he can carry the pace, I absolutely believe he can. It is quite a nice circuit to drive, so it's not like it's going to be completely unsettled. So I think he can definitely get the win. I'm not sure about fastest lap, though. Someone else might be able to claim that. In terms of the podium, Beaker's got to be a candidate, absolutely. But really, it could be, for me personally, anyone from 3rd to 6th, I'd say, because I think Azia was fighting for pole for a bit in that session, maybe just slacked off a bit in the last sector. So really, if I had to make a proper prediction as for a 1, 2, 3, I'd probably say Piloto, Beaker, and Falsetti as something happened.
Kai Bacchini just lost it going through turn 3 when it ran wide on the exit, got onto the grass. I think he was trying to warm his tyres up, but just took a bit too much of a wide line. Lost the car, went off towards the wall, hit the wall, but luckily in the formation lap you don't get damage, so he's okay. His back end is very lively though. He is definitely struggling with the car right now. Hopefully he can fix that in time for the race. That's what these formation laps are for, is to get you more familiarised with the car, but also get your tyres up to a great temperature. Everybody's on the medium, so there's no variance in strategy, and he's really struggling. Oh! A nice safe rejoin to go with it. Just slid back onto the circuit there. He is really not having a good time.
No, I definitely know someone who's not going to have cold tyres at the start, that's for sure.
Well, he's already in the 100 degrees. I'm just looking at his dash there. 102 degrees for his rear left for a little bit there. Yeah, he's definitely not having a great time right now. Falsetti in P4 with Fairball just ahead of him. Fairball is not someone you usually look to for having really good pace, but I have raced with him and not just in this game, but in Assetto Corsa Competizione recently, and he is actually really starting to pick up his pace and starting to feel a lot more confident when it comes to driving in a race standard. So we'll see how Furball takes to the circuit. It's, like I said, currently P3 for now, Bika P2. This is going to be a really solid battle for the podium.
Yeah, I can't wait to see as there's someone just a bit further back. And Roshka has indeed been onto lineup, so that's very good to see. I'm looking forward to see how far up the field he can get.
All right then, 10 laps here in the Brazilian circuit. It's going to be the feature race initially, 25% race, remember, and then we're going over to a sprint race. The lights are on here. It's going to be Piloto leading us away. And it's go time here in Brazil, and Piloto looks like he's got a little bit of a wobbly start. Breekers looks like he's actually got a much better one. He's going to be coming in for the inside towards turn 1. Is he going to actually get the move stuck? I don't think he is. He's going to have to let Piloto get it through. Beaker gets a little bit onto the curb there. That allows Furball to get up into P2, and he's lost a position already. Cabicini, P4. Forsetti down to P6. Something's gone horrifically wrong for him, but we need to look at Cabicini because he is ready to go on his teammate, but he's also got a car alongside of him in the form of a Furball. There's a little bit of a contact there between him and Beaker, and that could have been disaster. More contact there as Furball just turned in a little bit too hard, and all is well that ends well, and right now it ended well for Beaker, it ended well for Cabicini. It did not end well for Furball or Forsetti.
Yeah, Depane's just had contact with, I believe, Furball. Those who are trying to go side by side through the long right-hander. It's not gone well for them. They've dropped several positions, but meanwhile, Kai's now been overtaken by Azio. I don't know if that's hot tyres again. His tyres are very hot at the moment, so he might have very high pressures in the setup if they can even do that, which I believe they can. Beaker already a second and a half behind Piloto, though, so Piloto running away with it at the moment.
It's just all this fighting, that's the issue. I mean, you got Lando's Milkman and Aviator going side by side as well. Lando's is hopefully going to get the cutback as Aviator takes a very tight line through that final proper corner. There are obviously a couple more ahead, but you just flat out throughout the entirety of it, so you don't really class them as corners. Aviator hasn't got the toe to protect himself, so he's going to end up getting into a bit of a scrap here coming in towards turn 1. I think Lando's has chosen the hard route because he's going to be on the inside for only one corner, but he's on the outside for 2, and Azia and Cabicini have had a bit of a moment, and Kai just gets out of shape as a result of the contact that Azia turned in a bit too much, and Aviator's lost control. He's gone off to the outside. He loses a couple of positions and might even lose more as Tiger Jr. on the back of him is going to be looking to try and get around the outside of turn 4.
It's not been a good first sector there for Aviator, but it doesn't mean it's race heavy. He's currently in 8th, so actually that's a very good position to finish in terms of for the sprint race. But obviously most of the points are allocated for this first race. Kai trying to get it down the inside of Falsetti, and you're not trying into the last one. He's lost a bit too much ground. As you're falling behind BK at the moment on my screen, he's saying 1 minute 22 seconds behind. I very highly doubt he's that far behind. But,
no. I mean, yeah, there is a hell of a gap, but lap 3 is when we'll see the actual timing, so keep an eye on that in just a moment. Depayne have a little bit of a moment there with Lando's Milkman. He went down the inside, it didn't quite work out for him. The dog got shut on him a little bit, and he also lost the rear end to boot. So he's not having a great time, but not having the worst. Still in with a chance of scoring some big points, and if he can stay in either in the top 8 altogether, then he will start in a great position going into the next race. Obviously, we'll flip reverse. We see the top 8 get flipped, so P8 will start P1 in the next race, and then upwards and onwards. So Piloto sets the fastest lap of the second lap. We're now into DRS being enabled, and the timings on the left are now correct, which does show that is Azia being attacked by Falsetti with Cabicini right on the back of him.
Yeah, Kai's definitely going to be the one to watch. He's got very close toe. Not actually catching as much as I thought he might. That might be much to the fact that Falsetti also had DRS. He's gone very deep into the corner there. This is going to give Kai a good exit. They go side by side through the kink, and it's just a clean overtake. Not much more to say about that, but Falsetti is coming back. No, he just had a little look. Lando's Milkman trying to catch these guys behind, but he's got the pain right on the back of him, so there are battles everywhere in this first race, but in the top 3, at least a second and a half covering each driver.
Well, this is it now, is that this is a track where if you're battling, you can lose a hell of a lot of time. So this is not entirely over, but the P, as long as they stay as gapped as they are for a little while, there is the chance of bringing it back is so low. Furball had a mistake there, losing out to Tiger Jr. now, who's now up to P9. Furball might get it back on the home straight because Tiger Jr. does not have a toe, he does not have DRS, and Furball will have both. But he also has to keep an eye out in his mirrors because there is a Marquez who is very quickly getting up to the gearbox of him, and he has to protect that as quick as he can. Looking back towards P6 upwards, and the battles are there, but they're not yet forming. The gaps are closing in, But they're probably going to happen in the run in towards turn 4. As Azia's gone deep in towards turn 2, which means he's going to have to take a very tight line now, and his exit for turn 3 has been compromised. Is it going to allow Kai Buccini to get him? DRS enabled? We'll see.
He's about to try and go. Oh, I thought Kai was going for the outside line. As he actually covers that, so he has to go down the inside contact.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Kai's round.
Azia just came in a bit, just turned over and shut the door on Kai, and there's nothing Kai could do there. Became the victim, unfortunately. Luckily, no damage, though. At least nothing I could see. There's a bit of a massive battle here. You got Depayne, you got Lando's Milkman. You also have Falsetti ahead of this, too. And here comes Aviator to stick his nose in the business as well. Kai's got a 2 seconds penalty for multiple warnings. Falsetti losing the rear. Depayne still stuck on the inside here of Lando's. And I think ultimately, Lando's is probably going to lose out here, despite he's got a better cutback. He just doesn't have the space. He doesn't have the aerodynamic grip he needs. And he hasn't got the time. He's going to have to try and sit behind him, make sure that Depayne doesn't lose time to Falsetti. And there's still a battle here for P3.
Like I said earlier, it's completely up in the air. He's going to get that 3rd podium spot. But it definitely seems like Kai's out of the running for now. A penalty and down to 11th. So it's definitely between Aviator, Lando, Depayne, Falsetti, and Azia at the moment. Azia having no slips from DRS, but staying in front of Falsetti. I believe there's an 8/10 gap, so that would most likely explain why. But I imagine Falsetti should be able to climb up if he doesn't come under attack.
Oh, Marquez has gone down the inside of Fairball into towards turn 1. He's made that one work. Kai Buccini was a bit stuck on the outside there. There was nowhere for him to go, unfortunately. A bit of touch there. Still no damage for him, so he's been very lucky in that respect. But he does get sent off to the grass, loses a bit of control, and in the end will lose an additional place. Depayne still here. He's still fighting. He's actually looking for the inside on Falsetti. No gap to be found. Falsetti will hold his line, and Depayne will hold P5.
They've got to be very careful here. Falsetti is just switching between just over a second and just under a second. So he's really going to make sure Depayne doesn't just send it in one of the corners. Obviously, he can't control that, but if he does, he really needs to be aware of that. Just right now, again, just switching between over and under a second, so he needs to get on the lucky side of that when the DRS detection point comes on. Otherwise, he's going to be in a lot of trouble heading down into turn 1.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the battles, like I say, they're still there. You got a big battle for P8 that goes all the way down to P13 as Marquez gets a time penalty. You got battle for P4. It's almost a battle for P3 as Dave's only now, I said Dave, sorry, I know him quite personally. Falsetti is now just over a second over from Azia. He's brought it back in again. He's actually having a look out for Depayne. He's trying to get around the outside again into towards turn 1. Dave going defensive. Makes that work quite nicely. Turn 2 does not quite go as well as he wanted. Doesn't get the exit he needed, and now the DRS is available to him. Falsetti does not have it. This is going to be really bad for Falsetti. How is he going to protect himself? He comes across is what he's trying to do. He's trying to make sure that Depayne has to take a very, very tight line. And Falsetti and Depayne go wheel to wheel. They're still going at it in towards turn 5, and they're still keeping it clean. Depayne has still got himself on the inside line. I think he's going to actually hold this through 6 and 7, and Falsetti runs wide. That's a mistake. He's tried to carry the momentum, tried to follow it round the outside, and it did not work out. Not only does he lose to Depayne, he also loses to Lando's Milkman, and now Aviator.
Yeah, as you say, he was just trying to carry too much momentum, lost the rear, tried to steer it back into the tarmac, but was unfortunately unable to keep it in. So now Depayne is in a similar situation to the one that Falsetti was in. Not quite as tense though, because Lando's Milkman isn't right up his trough. Yeah. So he can just work on trying to catch up to Azia. That fight for the podium is definitely still on, but he's got some work to do.
It does indeed. I mean, Kai is trying to recover his race from where it started. He had a really good run, and I think he's been quite unlucky, to be honest. He's been involved in a few incidents that were not his fault. He's just trying to recover, get back into the top 8 if he can. And he's in sight of it. P8 is right there. Tiger Jr. in front of Fairball, in front of Kai Buccini. Tiger Jr. goes defensive in towards turn 1. Fairball's going to take a very long outside line, and Kai's gone into the back of Fairball. Fairball's managed to keep his car under control, but Kai Buccini has lost the rear a little bit, and I think that was also Roshko, who's had a bit of a spin there. I don't know if he had contact with Kai or not. The wing looks okay. Oh, Kai's gone. Big spin there.
And I can confirm he did have contact with Kai. Kai got a little bit spun, and then Roshko had a lot of momentum going into the corner and didn't see Kai being slower than he expected. So that was what happened there. Meanwhile, Falsetti is close right up to the back of Aviator. So Falsetti's still got battles on his hands. Maybe not for the podium, but he's still got some racing to entertain us with.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Piloto is pretty much on an island on his own, isn't he? 3.3 seconds ahead of Beaker, who's also on an island on his own, with Azia 4.3 seconds behind. Depayne was sort of in the battle there for P3, that it's not over yet, especially if Azzy gets a penalty for anything, then he may, fall outside that podium position and may get into Depayne's window, which is good for Depayne, bad for Azzy, but, the thing you're reliant on there is Azzy would need to get a penalty in the first place. And so far, don't want to jinx him, but so far he's doing well. Somebody who isn't is Ravenduck, who's had a bit of a wobble there, a bit of a spin. Back end was very hot, and that's allowed Kai Bacchini to take a very beautiful outside line. He's still going to hold it. Kai Bacchini, but I think Ravenduck might actually have the exit of dreams. Yes, he does. Who's got DRS? I think that has just been given to Kai. I've just seen the line. Yes, it has. So Ravenduck may have got the exit he needed, but the DRS is going to be so much more favored for Kai. And Ravenduck will fall back down to P12.
Yeah, good overtake there from Kai. Oh, actually, Ravenduck trying to get back at him, and that's cost him dearly. He's into the wall, and that is the end of Kai versus Ravenduck. He was just a bit too opportunistic, trying to get the pace back as soon as possible. I think he would have had DRS if he just stayed behind.
Yeah.
So, unfortunate there for him. And actually, you said about Azzy getting penalty. He is currently on 2 track limit related warnings. Depayne hasn't got a single one. So if Depayne can actually try and force Azzy into a mistake, if he can get close enough, this podium could absolutely be within his reach. And he's actually close up to within a second now. So this battle for the podium is absolutely not over.
Yep. When they cross the line, there's going to be only 2 laps to go. Lap 9 and lap 10. Azzy, pretty comfortable, I'd say. I think those warnings, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think those warnings were in the stages when he was battling alongside with people such as Falsetti and everyone else. The fact that he's here, P3, with 8/10 gap to Depayne, yes, it's reeling in, but there you go, never mind, because he's just got a penalty right there. So that's immediately allowed Depayne now to take P3 away from Azzy, unless Depayne gets a penalty himself, which if he hasn't already had a warning, then he's pretty much going to cement that with ease.
And someone else has got a penalty even right before him, so I was just trying to figure out what that was. But yeah, Depayne in a very good position. Atlanta's Milkman nearly 3 seconds behind, so he's definitely not in that battle anymore. Kai gets another penalty. It's been a run race for him, just a lot of bad luck.
Yeah.
But now, as I believe this yellow flag, is that Kai off again? It is. He's actually got damage.
Yeah, that front wing looks like it's been shattered. I can see end plates missing. I can see elements missing. And he's struggling with the rears now. That is sad times for him. Depayne, though, still working his magic on Azzy, and he doesn't actually have to pass him, remember. The penalty being applied to Azzy is all in Depayne's favour. This is good news for Depayne. He knows exactly what he needs to achieve now. It's just consistency. Just continue as you are. Do not allow yourself to get caught up in anything you don't need to be. And then just pass Azzy if you should on the run in towards turn 4. And setting the fastest lap. That's an additional 2 points that's going to go into his pocket as well. The only thing that's worrying him, really, is Piloto, who's done the qualifying. He got the 4 points from there. He's currently P1, and he's going to take the win with it more than likely if he can just remain consistent for the remainder of this lap. And then it's, how do you bring it back into the sprint race? You're going to be in P5, going into the start of the race. You've got a lot to do when it comes to trying to climb up the field, but it's not over. Still got time.
I think he'd actually start P6 if he finishes P3.
P3.
Yeah, there's still the same kind of area, and he's actually, I've just remembered taking that fastest lap. If Piloto doesn't get the fastest lap on this last lap, he will not be able to get the perfect weekend and repeat Bottas. Performance, and he's just got a penalty.
Yeah.
I don't think Beaker's close enough to capitalize on that, but that's still interesting. Now, Depayne, do you think you'll be able to get him on the last straight?
Yeah, he doesn't have to, but he absolutely will do. This is about a statement here. He's going to let Azzy know, I'm faster than you, I'm coming for you, and I'm taking your place. Azzy knows, well, yeah, but you're only getting it because I made a mistake, and that's caused me to get a penalty. But that's enough. That's all he needs. As Piloto takes the win, Beaker takes P2, and Depayne, through penalties, will take 3rd place and that final step on the podium.
And the battle for 8th is, well, that's not actually a battle. 3rd will finish 8th. He'll start on pole for the coming race. Tiger Jr. finishes 9th. Marquez 10th, right behind him, actually. I believe he had the 2-second penalty. Roshko is going to come through in 11th. He started from the back, so that's definitely not a bad result at all. Ravenduck in 12th after that mistake with Kai. And Bonito Banditas, I believe he actually left midway through the session, so not much to talk about in that respect.
Big sad for him, however. We have all but one driver across the line, and it was just unfortunate at times for Kai, like I say, getting caught up in things that weren't his fault. He did his best to avoid them where he could. That's sometimes how it can be in racing. But we'll get the rundown in a second for you as to exactly how that panned out. So Piloto did start on pole position, and he did take it to the end to take the win. The perfect weekend is not on the cards for him, as Depayne is the one who gets the fastest lap, and Beaker comes in P2. Depayne gets P3 as well, so 17 points for him. Azir P4, Lando's Moment P5, Aviator P6, Falsetti P7, and Furball rounds out the top 8. Now, these top 8 will get reversed, so it'll be at Furball in P1, and so on and so forth. Tiger Jr. getting 9th, Marquez getting the final points position, with Roshko getting best of the rest, with Raymond Duck in P12, Burrito Bandito P13, and Kai, sadly, the only DNFer. When he looks to the weekend results, it's still as is as to what it was in the first Grand Prix, but it's a little bit more favoured towards Piloto. 4 points clear, he's now 29 points overall. Beaker 18 points, so he's got a lot of work. He can still do this. If Piloto has a horrific race and doesn't score any points, Beaker wouldn't necessarily need to win, but he would need like a podium position in order to secure that, and maybe even a fastest lap if he falls a little bit further back than that. But it's still all to play for. And remember, the sprint race, only the top 8 score points, and the points are reduced in comparison. So, you know, it's much, much harder to pull it back. However, it's not impossible.
Actually, someone I'm going to be really looking out for is Depayne. He actually started 7th in that race and came through in the end, a podium position. If he can start 6th and get a good start, I could honestly see him getting the win ahead of Beaker. Well, obviously, that depends on the pace that both of them had. Actually, I believe Beaker left the session just before we advanced to this, so I don't think he'll actually be able to race.
I don't think he will either. So this is now very much Depayne's well, P2 at least to take away. It's now what does Piloto do here? That's the hard part for him. So we'll see as we go into this final Grand Prix. This is the sprint race, remember, so it's still a 25% race, but it is reduced in the number of laps. I think we'll be doing around about 8, I believe. I could be wrong, we'll find out. And the tyres are obviously going to be a little bit more favoured towards the softs. So I think everybody, I'm going to check in just a second, is on softs. No, we do have some medium runners. Not that they get to choose that is something that the game decides. So it's unfortunate for Furball, Depayne, Piloto, and Raven Duck. They will be on the mediums, but they will be comfortable on the tyres right the way to the end. It's just the softs will be that little bit faster.
It is a shame how they can't choose the tyres. Well, obviously, that doesn't mean Azir has a bit more chance, at least at the start of the race. Obviously, as you say, the medium runners will be much more comfortable at the end. They won't have to be looking after their tyres. They can just push, push, push. So actually, I'm interested. I'm going to flip the tables. What is your top 3 prediction for this race?
Well, I would like to say Falsetti could hold it for a P3, top 3, but I don't know. He just seems to be in a very fighty mood. That is kind of his racing style is a very aggressive racing style. He always has to throw the car, put the car on as hard a limit as possible, even if it means he's going to destroy his tires or whatever. In the F2 cars, you don't necessarily need to worry about the tyre wear, but you do need to worry about the situations on circuit. And there are times where he should back off, but doesn't. I don't think he will hold it there. Furball on the mediums, he's already going to have a hard run going into this race anyway, keeping himself in P1. Especially how the last race panned out when he qualified quite high. He's going to have probably the same scenario happen again. So I'm actually going to go with Lando's Milkman to get the win, Aviator to get P2. I think Aviator will probably cross the line first, but I think he's going to get penalties, so I think it'll be Lando's who takes P1. Aviator P2, and I'm actually going to back Depayne for P3.
Very bold prediction. And now I think about it, is quite possibly the most likely. Obviously, we have no idea what will happen, but that is a very good call.
Here we go then for the final time in the F2 cars. Remember, we will be going to the F1 series after this. We will get a little bit of a hype video in between as well. Just get your mouth watering a little bit. Get yourself all ready and excited. Here we go then. The final run. It's going to be Furball leading us away with Falsetti in second. The lights are ready to go. And it's go time here in Brazil for the final time in the F2 cars, and Furball has got a much better start, but still not quite as good as he needs it to be. Falsetti on the inside. Is he going to try and look to stick it through? He is, that's for sure. He's had a little bit of contact there. That's actually going to allow Aviator to slip down the inside. but not quite worked out for him, and it's again a little bit of a contact. He has lost out a position, but he can still recover this. He has a lot of cars on the back end of him. You got Azia alongside Landos Milman. Landos Milman in the back end of Falsetti, and there's a very big lunge from Azia, and he gets the move done on Landos Milman, who gets forced further down the field, but he is going to get himself up to P4 now, and Falsetti holds on to P3, but there's a lot of elbows being pointed out here, and I think Landos Milman might be the one to receive it.
Yeah, Landos Milman certainly not heading for that P1 prediction that you expected so far, but obviously anything can happen. He's fine back with Depane, a little bit of contact. I wonder if he's going to get the traction. It should. It's that bit of forcing out. I'm not sure. Peloto now trying to go on the outside. Depane, a little desperate to the corner, loses the back end.
Yeah.
And it's very feisty in the moment with these mid of the top 10 drivers. Actually, Kai is sticking with Peloto as well. He's of course on the soft tires. If he doesn't get in the bad luck that he did in the last race, he could really redeem himself.
Yeah, I think the only thing I could really say that Kai could really sort of have done in the last race is, pick and choose his battles a little bit more. He did the right thing in most of them. It was just, especially in the run in towards turn 1, he was stuck on the outside. It's just to back off, let it happen, and then recover and go again. But, hindsight is 20/20. That's the main thing. It's easier to say what you should have done when you've already done it, and then go from there. Azia has managed to get the move done on Falsetti. Falsetti's still coming back at him, has so much more momentum, but he's going to be squeezed to the outside. Azia gave him just the right amount of room. That was so on the limit, a little bit less that time around, but still, Azia will hold P3, Falsetti will hold P4. Landos Milman working his way closer. A bit of a wobble there from Falsetti, intentional. Landos Milman in the same boat, Depane right here too.
And Depane's actually gone from the inside. Has he got the move done? It looks like Landos actually ghosting, at least on my screen, for a bit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but Depane has actually gained the position, and he will be trying to get onto the podium once again at the moment. Aviator hasn't been able to get past Verbal yet, which is interesting, considering the tyre difference. Obviously, the tyres shouldn't have worn yet, but I am expecting Aviator to get past either lap 3 or 4. I can't really see Verbal surviving much longer than that.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. The longer Furball can just keep those guys behind, the better it works out for him. The softs will start to fall away soon. They're not going to be in a puncher territory zone. That's guaranteed. Oh, Peloto and Landos Milman having a big battle here. Peloto's trying to stick it round. He's not going to get the run he needs, so he's going to have to come for a bit of a tighter line, which is going to be better for him. He's going to be on the actual racing line, but he's not going to get the slingshot he needs this time coming in towards turn 4. Landos has been a bit slower, but they both have DRS, so when it comes into the braking zone, that's all it's going to be. Is Peloto's looking for the inside. There's no gap there. He's going to have to take the outside again, and Landos defends it. Landos goes deep. This allows Peloto to get through, and now it's Kai Bacchini's turn to see if he can get past Landos Milman. If he can play the same strategy that Peloto just did, then Landos Milman's got his days numbered.
Yeah, he's just falling down and down, isn't he? Even on the soft tyres, he's just losing out to anyone who can get the slightly better lines. Azir and Aviator, and Falsetti as well. Big argy-bargy's going on up there. And this is just letting Philbert get a bit further away.
Depane with a lunge on Falsetti. That was such a huge attempt. I mean, he was ambitious. It didn't work out for him. There was definitely contact. It was wheel to wheel, and it hasn't caused any real dramas other than maybe a code brown for Falsetti. But Depane still here. Falsetti losing time to Azia. They both do still have DRS, but the toe is very favoured towards Depane until this point here, where Falsetti comes across. That was very late there. Could have very nearly ended in massive tears for all of them. But here we go again then, in towards turn 1. Depane will have to take the outside because Falsetti is defending it. Falsetti runs wide, kind of forces Depane to run a bit deep, and Ivia has lost it. He's going to fall down the order. That promotes Falsetti up to P3. It promotes Depane up to P4, and Kai Bacchini is ahead of Peloto.
Sorry for my little squirm in turn 1. Landos Milman absolutely barraged into the back of Peloto. I don't know if he was hit from behind or not, but here we go. Kai on the inside of Depane and Falsetti. And he's...
Oh no! Falsetti's gone. He's caught it. He kept himself out of the wall, but look how far down he's dropped.
Oh, and I think, yeah, he's retired. He's retired after that. I'm not surprised, but Kai up to 30 absolutely took the opportunist route from that situation. And Peloto, I'm not actually sure if he got a penalty after being shoved at turn 1, because I'm pretty sure he had to cut the chicane. But if he has got a penalty, that's certainly going to hurt his chances of getting onto the podium.
Roshko chasing Peloto still. Peloto is there alongside, well, on the rear, sorry, of Depayne. Depayne starting to lose ground here on Kai Bicini. I think the softs are actually still working very well for both, for Kai Bicini. Not quite as well for Azir, who's dropped off. He's 1.1 seconds behind Furball. Furball in with a chance of holding down the race win.
Yeah, I'll have to put my hands up. I was completely wrong about him keeping Azir behind. He's far surpassed my expectations. Azir back into that second, but I think that was after the detection point. Yeah, he hasn't got DRS, so he might actually fall into the hands of Kai if he doesn't, if he makes too many mistakes. Meanwhile, Depayne on the back of Kai now, Piloto still on the back of both of them. Trying to get the better lines. Depayne has a bit of a wiggle coming out of the corner. This is going to let Piloto close up. Going up to the long uphill right-hander, can't do anything. But he is keeping a bit of a tighter line that might allow him to close in a bit more. Again, the most likely chance to overtake is on the main straight and on the run down to turn 4. So Piloto might just be waiting for that moment. Meanwhile, Azir has actually closed back within that second, 8/10 now. So if he can keep his exhaust under control, maybe, but I reckon they're going to start wearing now.
Yeah, this is the scary bit for Azir. He has got a lot of work to do to be able to keep himself in with a running chance of taking the race win here. Furball's done a phenomenal job, and I said it right before we went into the first race. He made me look foolish in the first one by singing his praises so much beforehand. This one he's actually starting to live up to what I was saying. You know, he's on the medium tyres, the slower of the two compounds that are currently being used, but he's making it work. He's doing really well as Depayne is going down the inside of Kai Bicini. Kai gives him plenty of space, lots of movement there, and Kai gets the run he needs, but he might have gone a little bit too deep in towards turn 3. At least this is allowing Depayne to get back onto the fight for Kai Bicini's position. Bit of a wobble there. That's allowed Kai Bicini to run away, but this has also allowed Piloto to really close in, but he's not using DRS. I don't know if he's got DRS failure or if he just chose not to use it, or even if he even knew he had it. But again, he's got a much better run through turn 5. This is going to be very tight here. He's going to have to struggle, and he has to back out. That was a very, very tense moment for Piloto. But ultimately, Kai Bicini, with that defensive drive there, he held it perfectly.
Well, he's actually just got a penalty as well,
Oh,
so if
no.
he's careful, then he's going to lose this out to Depayne, and Depayne will get another podium from penalties. He's only got 1 warning so far. Piloto hasn't got a single warning. That's actually quite surprising, considering turn 1 incident with Lando's Milkman. What about Azir and Furball? Azir has no warnings. Furball has 1 warning. But I imagine he will not get a penalty. So at the moment is Depayne P3, Piloto P4, Kai P5! And it's happened again.
Oh, there was 2 offs at the same time. Roshko lost it coming out the final corner. I don't know what happened to Kai. And Kai's just gone into Marquez. And again! Oh no!
Man.
Big crash. That was Lando's Milkman getting caught up by Kai, and he's caught another one. Who is that? Is that Roshko? What has happened?
Oh, that was a big chain reaction. There's a wheel going loose. This was real F2. I wouldn't be surprised if that was a red flag.
That was
a horrible
big crash. What happened initially? How did Kai lose control?
I believe he just got on the curb on the exit of the last corner, spun around the car, started to lose it, went on the grass, went into the wall, and then I believe you saw from then on with Marquez. That was very scary to watch.
There's a belief that Kai had a puncture for a moment. We'll need to have a look at it and to find out exactly what happened, but that was a big crash.
That was not nice to look at.
If that was real life, can you imagine how traumatic that would have been? That was horrific. Even now, I'm stunned as to how big that was. Aviator and Tiger Jr., they swapped places, but ultimately, the man of the hour right now, Furball, had a rough first race, coming into the second race, and will take the victory. Azir taking P2, Depayne taking P3, Piloto P4, Aviator will make it to take P5, unless Tiger Jr. has had a cleaner race than Aviator. We'll find out in just a second as Aviator crosses the line P5, and Tiger Jr. crosses in P6. Raven Duck will look to take P7, Marquez P8, and they're the final of the points positions, and then Kai Bicini followed by Lando's Milkman.
Well, that's one way to end the race, isn't it? Well, imagine if that happened on the very final lap.
That would have been trauma.
That gave me flashbacks to, what was it, 2005 Brazil? The really big one with Webber and Alonso.
I don't think I saw that one.
There was a very, very big crash. I don't know if it was just Alonso and Webber, but a few more as well. It was, I believe, mid to late 2000s. It was a very scary crash, very similar actually to the one we just saw. But yeah, and Ferbal doing very well there to avoid all the chaos.
Very well indeed. Well played to him to be able to hold out the way he did. And we'll hopefully see exactly how the rundown is in just a second. All right, here we go then. So in terms of the feature race, it was DePayne again getting another... no, that was the feature race, sorry. It was Piloto, actually, who gets the fastest lap. Doesn't get the win, so obviously the perfect weekend was lost anyway. But still, it gets a really solid amount of points. But when it comes to the overall weekend, it is going to be Piloto Paya, who secures the overall weekend win. Fastest lap in the second race, as well as a nice solid round of 8 points in the second, does allow him to finish on 39. DePayne takes P2 with Asia in P3, Furball P4, Avia at P5, Landers Milton P6, Fossetti P7, Tiger Jr. tied with him, Marquez tied with Raymond for P9, and then for 11th place is Caipcini, Roshko, and Burrito Bandito, all scoring nothing. Right, do not go anywhere. We'll be back very soon with the F1 Grand Prix here in Brazil, and we'll see you very shortly. Stay tuned.